just entered the theater of an alien sky. If the words and images seem strange to you, there's a reason for this. Our world was once a vastly different place. To experience this won't hurt you, and there is nothing to fear. In previous discourses, we followed multiple paths of evidence to describe the mythic Labyrinth, the dancing ground of the legendary mother goddess and warrior hero. Our claim has been that this enigmatic theme has its archetypal origins in extraordinary celestial phenomena. The events did not occur down here on any local landscape, but in the sky, in the original theater of the gods. And so, as we gain insight into the most fundamental archetypes, we unavoidably encounter the phenomenon of localization, a universal aspect of storytelling in ancient times, but only rarely discussed in modern-day treatments of mythic traditions. Localization refers to the ancient habit of projecting the original mythic archetypes onto familiar and accessible local landscapes, to the extent that 1,000 local symbols came to be confused with the celestial forms and events of the original myth-making epoch. Every sacred mountain on earth, named after a cosmic prototype, came to be remembered as the place where the Creator God himself stood in primeval times. Every sacred city came to be celebrated as the city of heaven, the original dwelling of the gods. This pattern of confusion was repeated thousands of times around the world. The later symbol came to be seen as the thing originally symbolized, and that's the pervasive mistake we're required to recognize and to unravel in any investigation of mythic origins. As for later symbolic elaborations, a good example is the appearance of commemorative knotwork, a connection fitting perfectly with our earlier identification of the labyrinth as the original Gordian knot. In seeking out the later echoes of the mythic theme, many useful clues will be found in the symbolic knotwork of Ireland and Scandinavia, with striking parallels in the labyrinth. I'm now fully satisfied that at root, the two mythic threads arose from precisely the same human experience. And so it's no coincidence that familiar themes we've covered in these discourses show up in the complex knotwork of Northern Europe, from entwining twin serpents to the symbolism of the ram's horns. Labyrinth and sacred knotwork also overlap in the Chinese image of the Piang Chang, called the endless knot or knot of happiness. And here too we discover that the knotwork theme can't be separated from the mythic intestines of the labyrinth. Chinese legends describe the entwining Piang Chang as a knot formed from the intestines of a slain enemy. All of which remind us again of the so-called fortress of intestines to which Humbaba, the enemy slain by Gilgamesh, gave his name. As we've discovered so consistently, it's when seeming absurdities fall into line with an inherently logical expectation that we know we're on the right track. I should hasten to add that the most common association of the labyrinth revealed by cross-cultural comparison was with the famous cave or cavern entered by the hero, as we should also expect. Dorothy Norman, in her book The Hero, writes, "In those cases where the ritual has been preserved, the labyrinth itself, or a drawing of it, is invariably situated at the entrance of the cave or dwelling." Of course, that pattern is entirely logical if the labyrinth entered by the hero meant precisely the same thing as the famous cavern of the hero's initiation. And so our conclusion. The predicted symbolic equations noted here can be fully verified by any independent researcher who will follow the available keys. The hero bound within a knot, as observed by the comparative symbolists Chevalier and Geerbrand, is equivalent to the hero being swallowed by the monster, another universal motif. And so the disgorging of the hero by the monster is simply a variant on untying the knot, signifying at the same time the god's release and the defeat of the chaos monster. So the labyrinth is a challenge to the hero, and conceptually it's only a short distance to the mythic riddle or paradox, a common folklore variant of the critical juncture in the biography of the hero, where his victory is synonymous with meeting a test. In other words, the test turns out to be the critical turn in the biography of the hero, meaning that it gives the hero his defining role. When Oedipus answered the riddle of the Sphinx correctly, what happened next? He was not only saved, but the devouring goddess plunged over the precipice. Among those comparative symbolists who discovered the essential connections, though certainly not accounted for them, I would list J.C. Cooper, who writes in an illustrated encyclopedia of traditional symbols, "The labyrinth is related to the symbolism of the cave and with initiation rites. It also shares the symbolism of the knot in binding and loosing, restricting but uniting. The labyrinth in the square depicts the four cardinal points and the cosmos and may be connected with the swastika." Yes, indeed, the very symbolic relationships we've already noted. But while Cooper's summary of associated symbols is generally accurate, it offers no clue at all on the origins of the pervasive labyrinth archetype. For us, that is a giant shortcoming, since uncovering the integral origins of world mythology is our overriding purpose. But now we can confidently say that the labyrinth theme did not arise from anything in today's familiar natural experience. The cavernous form was entirely celestial, towering over humanity. Of course, that's been our message all along. It's only by seeing the named mythic powers as planets close to Earth that we're able to bring the global patterns to light. And as we're now prepared to demonstrate, that means a concrete explanation for all of the acknowledged archetypal personalities of world mythology. A coherent ancient story unfolding in an extraordinary phase of solar system history.